Welcome to the Money Hour with host Tina Mitchell and co-host Keelan Harvey. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, NMLS 134871. The views expressed by the speakers on the following program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited. Now, in the studio, local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome to the Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, June 26th show. You can also listen to our podcast, Facebook premiere show, or on our show YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell, and flying solo today. Keelan's going to take a little bit of time off, so it'll just be myself. All right, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how they can affect your money. If you are listening to our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. We are here to answer any questions or to connect you with the guests that we have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And our lineup for today's show, we have David Quantrell of eXp Realty, the Q team. The real estate market is crazy. We also have Miranda McClure and Chelsea Mundell of RPM Today, Property Management in a Pandemic. And our last guest in studio, Monica Sanchez of Trans World Business Advisors, why over 90% of business owners don't sell. I also want to give a shout out for Victoria, our director of marketing. And so if you're seeing our show on video, you can see Victoria, and also our producer over at Hubbard Radio, Benny. And they do a lot. Well, they do all of the work behind the scenes to make this show happen. Definitely could not do it without them. So thank you, Benny and Victoria. Great information and great guests in studio today. For more information on any topic discussed, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And as we do each week, minus Keelan's money chat, we'll go ahead and start out with mine.
Money.
Tina Mitchell here with this week's Money Chat. Our good friend, author Kajan, shared some inside information on shipping with us from one of his contracts. He explained that many are seeing ships of containers delayed and they expect it to go through the end of the year, potentially causing some issues for the holidays as well. But this really speaks to more lasting inflation and not the transitory inflation that the feds have been speaking about. Powell's speech, he chose his words and his remarks very carefully and did not give too much information in his Q&A session. He stuck to the fact that he thinks that most of the inflation that we are seeing will be transitory and is tied to reopening and temporary issues. When pressed on the labor openings, he did admit to seeing an improvement once the extra unemployment benefits expired. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic redefined for us in his thoughts on transitory, saying that it is going to be a little longer than expected initially. Rather than it being 2 to 3 months, it may be 6 to 9 months. St. Louis Fed President James Bullard spoke on CNBC and was very transparent on his views on inflation, on when the Fed should when the Fed should start hiking interest rate. He believes that the Fed was surprised with how much inflation had seen and thinks that there is upside risk to their inflation forecast. Part of the reasoning is that there will be more inflation when certain states get back to business as usual and when other countries around the world reopen and see a boom like we have here. This could lead to importing inflations. Currently, the Fed's Median forecast shows that core PCE inflation averaging 3% in 2021, with it dropping to 2% in 2022. This would support their feelings that inflation is transient. But Bullard thinks that there will be a spillover in inflation in 2022 and thinks that the PCE will average 2.5% in 2020 and won't fall back to 2% until 2023. Because of this, he unveiled that his dot on the anonymous dot chart, which shows that the Fed members think about the Feds when they should actually hike, said in 2022. On tapering, he said that he believes that the Fed needs to be nimble and be ready to make adjustments as necessary. He also expressed that he feels that the Fed does not need to be involved in mortgage-backed securities with a booming housing market and potentially threatening to the housing bubble. These are just his thoughts, but it would support that the Fed is going to cut mortgage-backed security purchases first ahead of treasuries. The Fed's balance sheet has pierced $8 trillion for the very first time. For some perspective on this, stacking $8 trillion worth of $100 bills on top of each other would span 5,429 miles more than the distance from New York to California and back. With almost no inventory, Zillow reported on the single family rents were up 2.3% in May alone. CoreLogic said that the rents rose 5.3% year over year, which is the largest gain in nearly 15 years. We have been saying that rents would eventually go up. Now, rents for single family detached homes, not condos, were up even stronger at 7.9% compared to a year ago, likely because individuals are seeing more outdoor space or wanting to live in more outdoor space. Nearly half of the millennials surveyed by CoreLogic and 64% of baby boomers said that they strongly prefer to live in a single stand-alone home. June's consumer sentiment survey came out showing that consumers' plan to buy a home has been steadily decreasing from 127 in March to 74 in June. The media has been having a field day with this stat, saying that it points to potential for trouble in the housing market. Now, it's important to note these are only plans to purchase, and those plans could change. Many were probably feeling good after receiving many stimulus checks in March, and when they finally got out to the market to purchase a home, felt a little bit discouraged with the lack of inventory and the higher prices. We see the same story playing out in cars. The index was 118 in April, down from 89 in June. Again, buyers likely had big plans after receiving the stimulus, and those plans changed in the recent reading. Now, both of these levels are at the lowest since 1982. Now, LendingTree came out with a report showing that median housing costs were higher from homeowners than renters in all 50 of the largest U.S. metros. But for how long? Rental prices are a lagging indicator and are going to continue to go up. You're not going to rent your home for the same amount previously if your home was priced has appreciated at 13% or more, but you may be contractual bounded for a period of time. Now, when this goes up, it will cause inflation to move higher, as well as it will be a big part of the CPI and the PCE. Now, there's a lot of concerns being voiced in the media regarding forbearance and how this may have a surge of inventory that could cause a problem for the housing market. This is not a concern. Forbearance is similar to hitting a pause button on your mortgage payments. When the borrowers exits their forbearance, that pause amount gets added to their loan with no interest. This amount is paid off when they sell or refinance. Now, 87% of loans are below an 80% loan to value, which provides homeowners with a nice position of equity, which will be a cushion for them. Initial job claims, which measures individuals filing for unemployment benefits for the first time, fell by 7,000 to 411,000, still at a much higher level than we'd like to see in this period of time. Continued claims, or those that continue to receive benefits, fell 144,000 to 3.4 million, which is a pandemic low, but also still elevated. Now, the pandemic unemployment assistance claims, which gives individual benefits who would not usually qualify, and the pandemic emergency claims, which extends benefits after regular benefits expired, increased by 68,000 combined. Some are saying that we are not seeing a drop in the claims as expected after many states cut their additional benefits. It's too early to tell, and this will definitely take some time. Also, remember that this is only state portion, and they do still receive the federal additional benefit. We'll not likely see a meaningful improvement until after Labor Day when those benefits removed. New home sales, which measures signed contracts on new homes, were down 6% in May, but this figure is actually worse when you factor in the revisions, totaling a 12% decline. Looking at the inventory levels, there were only 330,000 new homes for sale. Total inventory showing 1.23 million homes for sale, which is up 7% from April, but down almost 21% year over year. At least it appears that we are seeing some movement in the right direction. Homes were only on the market for 17 days on an average. Now, the national median home price was reported at a record high, $350,300, which is up a record of 24% year over year. The media has had a field day with this, quoting that people are getting priced out of the city and we have affordability issues coming up. We know that the median price is just the middle price, and it is driven by predominantly due to the mix of sales. Sales between 500,000 and 750,000 were up 122%, 750 to 1 million up 178%, and 1 million plus 245%. Meanwhile, sales on the lower end beneath 250,000 were lower. Real appreciation is around 13% and still hotter than we would like to see for sustainability, but well beneath the 24% median home price. And speaking of affordability, first-time home buyers have remained at 31% for 3 out of the last 4 months. So I think the lack of sales is due to the inventory, not to the affordability. Cash buyers decreased from 25% to 23%. Investors purchased 17% of homes, which remain stable. The Mortgage Bankers Association released their mortgage application data showing that purchases rose 0.6% last week and are down 14% year over year. Refinances were down 5% last week and are down 27% year over year. The refinance share of mortgage activity increased to 60.4% of all transactions to 61.7%. And on interest rates, their 12 basis points are roughly 1/8% lower than this time last year. Tina Mitchell here. And that was your Money Chat. Coming up next on the Money Hour, the real estate market is crazy. We had David Cortrell of eXp Realty, the Q team, right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Alternative Talk 1150. We're on your radio at 1150 AM. We're on your HD radio at 98.9 Channel 3.
So many ways to listen.
We're on the web at 1150kknw.com. Streaming live audio and video as well as MP3 archives of many of our shows.
So many ways to listen.
And now, we're on your smartphone or tablet. Download our free app in the Apple App Store or Google Play and take Alternative Talk 1150 anywhere you go.
So many ways to listen.
Exploring new territory every day. This is Alternative Talk 1150.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, June 26th show. You can also listen to our podcast, Facebook premiere show, or on our show YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell, flying without Keelan today. It is a great day to talk about money, and that is what the show is all about. How to make money, save money, so you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you are listening to our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. We're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guest on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And now in studio, David Quantrell of eXp Realty, the Q team. The real estate market is crazy, and that's the conversation we're having with David right here at 1150 AM KKNW. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, Tina, thanks for having me here. Yeah, it is crazy.
It is really crazy. And sorry about the little bit of a pause there without Keelan. Little thing different over here on the managing side. So a little bit about David before we get started. Team lead listing agent David is recognized in the Western region of the United States for the most trusted and top producing brokers. David has extensive marketing knowledge matched with extreme devotion to his client's success, is almost exclusively based on positive referrals. David works with individuals, investors, and developers with a focus in Pierce County neighborhoods. David is supported by a full-time assistant and team of agents. Outside of real estate, David likes to hike, spend time with his family, outdoor activities, and supports various ministries within his church and other nonprofit organizations. Very excited to have a conversation with you, David, on this crazy real estate market. So what is your process starting out here? What is your process when getting a new buyer, especially in this environment?
Well, we've always, I've loved working with new buyers, and I feel an obligation when we're working with a new buyer to educate them, not just to go, oh, you want to buy a house? Let's run out there and do it. So we educate them with the process from A to Z. We don't just, run out and show them a house. So when we get there and it's a first-time home buyer and they haven't educated themselves, they know what we're talking about when we say, hey, I need that earnest money check. It's not an awkward conversation after you're under contract saying, hey, I need a check for $5,000. They know what's going to happen. They know what's going to happen during the inspection. So I've been doing that for probably about 6 of my 11 years in real estate, and it's helped out a lot.
That makes total sense, David. And the preparation and communication on the process is so important. As I read off your bio today, you've had huge success in the real estate business. What do you credit that success to?
I give a lot of credit to God. A lot of favor there. But just sticking with it, staying with clients, and doing a good job for everybody, no matter if they're buying a $50,000 manufactured home or a $2 million luxury residence, treating everybody the same way. I've gotten referrals from somebody buying a $50,000 manufactured home of a family member buying a $1.2 million home. So
Yes.
it's just treating everybody with respect, I think, has been one of the keys.
Absolutely. Coming from a place of service with everybody in our community that might sometime in the future want to buy real estate is definitely, I could see how that could be a contributor to your success. Now, I talked a little bit about money in the money chat, about what's happening in with inflation and in the real estate market. Do you feel that we're in a bubble and at risk of the market crashing and home values going down? What are your thoughts there?
Boy, I get asked that question about once every 3 to 4 hours, I feel
I
like.
was just going to say, I thought you were going to say once a day. And I was like, wait, once a day? That makes more sense. Once every 3 or 4 hours every day. Me too.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you touched on a really good point when you were talking earlier, that it is the craziness is due to inventory, and it doesn't have much to do with affordability right now. I think affordability is going to become into an issue when the market slows, because the rate's going to go up. It's just naturally kind of how it happens, right? Or the rate going up slows the market. Now, I don't think we're in
But with the rate going up, slowing the market, and you've got sellers that are sitting at a 2.5% interest rate, they might reconsider putting their home on the market instead taking all that equity and just remodeling the home that they're in. So then we have more inventory shortage, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I have 2.25 on my house. I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
There's no reason for me ever to, and so, in regards to the bubble, everybody looks at a bubble as that 2008 bubble, and they're scared to death of that bubble. Anybody that went through it or had any effect, or if they had parents, a lot of the millennials had parents going through that at that period of time. And I don't see that happening, just to be a blunt yes or no. I do see a market correction,
Yes.
But even if we have a 15% market correction, you said it earlier, we're up 13% for the year. If we have a 15% market correction, we're barely going back a year in value. That doesn't put us in that foreclosure, short sale craziness that we had in 2008 when home prices went down by, in some cases, 75%, but that 50 to 60% was more what we saw. And so I don't think we're in that kind of bubble. I think we'll get a market correction, but I also think that's going to come back. So only people that are maybe buying right now might have a little bit of an issue, but it'll recover in that natural rise of 3 to 4% over time since 1970.
Absolutely.
It's going to come back. If you're buying a house, I tell a lot of people this, you need to buy a house because you're going to stay in it for 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. People nowadays can buy a house and stay in it for 1 to 2 years and sell it and still make money.
Yes.
That's not typical.
That's not normal. Yeah. Yeah. And definitely not sustainable. Well, and you talk about, purchasing now, and the challenge is if you don't do something now and you do wait, even if we saw a correction in the real estate market, you're not going to see the interest rates that we have now. And, when you have a choice of low price or low cost is going to win every time. And commenting on what you said in the comparison of 2008 and what happened with that crazy drop in the market, it was majority of it was, well, almost all of it was because of lending, and we are not in that lending environment. We are not lending to anybody that breathes on a mirror. You have to have a job. You have to verify your income, that you qualify. There's no NAGAM loans and all these interest only loans and all of this stuff that should have never came into the market. That's what caused that meltdown. And so, we're not at risk of that because the banks are not lending irresponsibly. So David, what would you say if somebody asks you, is it a good time to buy or sell?
Right now, I think it's a good time for either, right? It's a good time to buy because interest rates are low. If you wait a year or 2 years and the rate goes up 2%, I use this analogy all the time. If for the same payment of your house right now, if the interest rate goes up 1%, you lose about 10% of buying power. Yep. So if you're approved for 500, you're only approved for 450. And I already talked about, I don't think the houses are going to go down much more than 10%. So that tells me it's still a good time to buy. Now, I totally say if you're thinking about selling, you need to sell now, right? I'm seeing these little micro nuances of the market slowing. And I say micro because it's really over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But at the end of 2018, we saw the rates go up. A lot of people didn't notice it because it was near the holiday season. You probably know about it, but rates went up and the market slowed, and nobody really noticed it besides people that were really producing in the industry. And it slowed, and it came right back because the rates went back down. I see that starting again, which could affect your sellability of your house. It's never going to be a better time or easier time to sell your house because people aren't doing inspections. People are waiving every contingency known to man, overpaying, not overpaying
because the value is there. They just can't support it. But paying over whatever the appraised value comes in. Yes, absolutely. And, if you're listening to the show right now, the appraisers just sometimes can't come up with the value because they don't have things that have actually sold. It doesn't mean the property is not valued at that because there were multiple offers and people willing to pay. And the true value of a property is what the consumers are willing to pay for the property. So David, what was the best decision that you've made in your career?
So 2 best decisions. One, moving my business over to eXp Realty. I have loved it ever since. I think eXp Realty is a agent-centric brokerage, and they support the agent and we support our clients, and it gives us the ability to do that. Second thing is biting the bullet and hiring an assistant years ago. Probably the most time-freeing thing I ever did. So for the big part, eXp Realty, for me personally, hiring an assistant.
Love it. I'm a time management and business efficiency coach on top of being a high producing mortgage consultant. One of the weeks that I talk about in my complimentary 8-week course is embracing your strengths and hiring out your weaknesses. So absolutely. With 3 months in the industry, I was hiring my first teammate. So if you could go back, what would you do differently, if anything?
The one thing I would do, and I get a lot of referral business because I just treat my clients well, is I would stay in touch with my past clients more. And I think that goes for most agents. We have a thing called an icon agent in eXp Realty, and we interview each other. Every Friday there's an interview of 3 or 4 agents, and it's all live. And that is consistently one of the things we mess up on. So just staying in touch with those past clients.
Absolutely. If you're in a sales conversion on cold business is 3%, conversion on warm or past clients is 50%. So definitely, and they're a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun to work with people that have already worked with you and have appreciation for the hard work that you do. What advice would you give to current buyers and sellers to ensure a smooth transaction?
Just listen to your agent. Find an experienced agent. And if they're not an experienced agent, make sure they're on a team and listen to their advice. Ask them for advice. What should I do? They're going to be able to guide you through this process. For buyers right now experiencing buyer burnout, stick with it. Eventually you're going to get a house. I'm seeing instead of 6 or 7 offers on each house, I'm seeing about 2 or 3, and you get higher up in the prices. And we're seeing like 1 and maybe none in the first week. So.
Yeah, great advice, especially for buyers. The worst thing that you can do is give up, and then you've definitely lost. If you stick with it, you will eventually get a home. It's just a matter of how many offers you're going to have to make to ultimately get to your home that was meant to be your home anyways, because I do believe that they end up getting the home that they were supposed to get. So what would you say to someone who doesn't have a home yet and wants to buy?
Do a home buyer class. Buy real estate, buy as young as you can and buy as much as you can. It has been the most consistent investment you can make over time right now. So take a class, home buyers classes, lots of agents put them on. I do an hour consult with every home buyer, learn what it's going to take to buy, and then get out there and do it as young as you can. I didn't start until I was in my 30s. And now I own quite a bit. Yeah. But if I would have started in my 20s, I'd be pretty financially independent at this point.
Yeah. So David's advice is, get in there and buy as early as you can when you're in a position to qualify for a loan and it makes sense to get into the market. Well, David, thank you so much for the time today. It was really great having a conversation with you. Congratulations on all of your success that you're having in the real estate business.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, Tina.
Yeah. And if you want to connect with David, 1-888-400-1150. I'm forgetting our phone number, or go online at themoneyhour.com and we can connect you with David. Coming up next in the Money Hour, property management in a pandemic, we have Miranda McCuller and Chelsea Mundall of RPM Today right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Are you a real estate investor looking to optimize and protect your investment? As the experts in property management, you can trust Real Property Management Today to protect your investment. Whether this is your first property or you are a seasoned investor, they will work with you to optimize your property and make you money. Miranda McClure and her team of experts have seen it all and will always have a solution ready. They back this with their RPM Today guarantee. To learn more about their services, call them at 253-820-5007 or online at rpmtoday.com.
Talk radio with a purpose. Alternative Talk 1150.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, June 26th show. You can listen to us on podcast, our Facebook premiere show, or on our show YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell. We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and 1 time at a time. If you are hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast. We can answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show today. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio now, we have Miranda McClure and Chelsea Mundell of RPM Today, Property Management in a Pandemic, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, Tina.
Yeah, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us on here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to give a little bio of Miranda. I don't have one for you, Chelsea, but I know we're going to be having a conversation a little bit with you as well. So Miranda is a business development manager for RPM Today in Puyallup, Washington. Miranda has experience in large multifamily companies and transitioned over to helping real estate investors and accidental landlords manage their residential and commercial properties. As an accidental landlord herself, she knows the importance of having an experienced team on your side. So really excited to hear what's happening in your industry. So Miranda, for you, what makes real estate property management today stand out?
Well, when you use Real Property Management Today as your property management company, you're going to get a team of highly experienced and dedicated individuals who are going to help protect your investment. We have well-developed systems that allow us to be efficient in each specific area, such as marketing, leasing, accounting, maintenance, and we're going to work to communicate with you throughout the entire process. Our team's combined experience means that we've pretty much seen just about everything, and we're going to have a solution ready for you when that time arises.
Yeah, and that's the best thing. And that's what the show is all about, why I call it the money hour. It's bringing in experts in every space that our community needs to help navigate them through the process. And so critically important that you have that. So Miranda, how does RPM best serve their clients?
Well, whether we're working with a first-time landlord or we're working with a seasoned investor, we're going to help them optimize their property to make them more money. And our experience with that, goes anywhere from giving a good market analysis to telling them what they can do to their property to get, the most amount of rent out of it. So ultimately, we're going to make homeowners more money while protecting their investment.
Two really important things. Miranda, where are the best places to invest right now, do you think, in our real estate market?
So there's so many variables that go into where you should invest. It's not just one area specifically. You're going to want to kind of analyze what your long-term goals are. What are you looking for out of an investment property? Some people, a larger cash flow up front is important, while other people may want to invest in an area that's going to grow over time, creating more equity in their property. So I think ultimately a conversation with a property manager or a financial advisor, if you're unsure of what those goals are going to help you. A great area if a large cash flow is really important right away would be Bellevue. For a 2-bedroom, 2-bath right now, the median rental is $3,200. It ranges anywhere from around $2,200 up to as high as $5,200 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. This means that if you can purchase a property in the median, you're going to create a large profit every month. A lower option would probably be Tacoma area. The average for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath is around $1,700. On the higher end, you can get around $2,500, but usually that's going to be closer to the water, the shops, things of that nature. So I always recommend before purchasing a property to reach out, get a market analysis. This is going to allow you to compare, rentals that have rented in the last 12 months, so you can make an informed decision on that.
Yeah, and the Tacoma market is doing some definitely growing. And so, yeah, having that discovery session and really going through all of the important questions, providing those answers so you can really strategize on what's going to be best individually and unique for you and what your needs are. So, Miranda, what's harming the property management community right now today?
Oh, well, that's a tricky question. So home sale prices and activities have hit record highs in some areas. Landlords and renters across the country have been struggling to make ends meet. There have been federal and legislation, private programs that have been put in place to protect them. But the US has shown nearly a 30% drop in rent payments that have been received since the pandemic hit. Critical federal and state legislation was put into place as a result to protect these tenants who are struggling with the widespread layoffs and income losses. But unfortunately, there have been negative side effects. These regulations are really inhibiting the natural course of the move in, move out, eviction cycle that the housing and rental market would otherwise experience. So my experience is leading me to believe that we're dealing with an unnatural inflation of housing needs that we have never experienced before.
Yeah. So we have just a minute left here. Chelsea, I had a couple other questions that I want to answer for you, but we've got to wrap up here with our time. What will come of the eviction moratorium? What's coming?
So we actually just got an update from the governor's office. They have extended the moratorium to the end of September. I'm not grossly surprised by this with the new House bills that have come out and all of the regulations that now are happening. We got a 13-page list of items that now we have to abide by as landlords to protect tenants, but also to try and create this stabilizing that they're hoping will happen once the moratorium lifts. The idea is great, but there are some backlashes that are happening. We're running into a situation of now owners having to sell their properties, and now we have less rentals available for people and making it even harder for people to be able to tenants to be able to find homes, but also can't afford to purchase at the time or not in a stable area, a stable ability to be able to do so, which is now creating that issue of where do these people get homed? And though they mean well with what's happening, there's more transitions that are going to be necessary in order for this to really help the whole community.
Yeah. And you know what, without Keelan here running a solo, lots going on. My engineer actually just said, we've got plenty of time. So we're going to stick around a little bit more with you. So Miranda, I want to go back to you. How has the pandemic affected the property management industry?
Well, like many other industries, real estate has been significantly affected by COVID-19. Property management in particular has experienced a lot of pandemic-related changes. There's no doubt that the risks are much greater in our current environment, and there's a lot more lawsuits that are on the rise. For many property management managers, keeping up with just the COVID-related laws and restrictions presents a huge challenge in itself. They're changing monthly, daily. So this is especially true if you're managing properties that are across different counties and cities, but it's essential to keep up with those laws if you're going to avoid a lawsuit in the COVID-19 world.
Yes. So what about how it's hurting clients?
So COVID has made it really difficult for both renters and landlords to pay their bills. It's a really tricky situation because many landlords are being forced to sell their properties because they can no longer cover the rent of that property and their own mortgage. I think what people forget is not every landlord has an influx. Many of them, they just may have one property that, that's their investment property for their retirement. So it's difficult for them to carry both of those. And it's causing, less and less rentals to become available because they're having to sell those right now.
Yeah. And on the side of clients that want to come into the investment market, it's really challenging as well because the secondary market has put limits on what can be held before selling to the secondary market with rental properties. And so that's had, interest rates have gone up quite a bit, doing something under 20% down or, kind of yesterday's opportunities. And so lots of things happening in the lending industry as well. So everybody has been impacted in some way. Chelsea, what programs have helped the industry?
So fortunately, it's very community minded. I mean, we have state, city, county programs that have gotten set up, but there are an immense amount of private programs that have gotten set up to help tenants as well. It does sit more, it does sit more on the aspect of assisting the tenants and not so much on assisting landlords. But the idea is if you can help the tenant, that will help the landlord. The tenant's able to pay their rent, the landlord's able to pay their mortgage. We work with a lot of smaller landlords where they only have 2-3 doors, not 35, 300 or 1,000. It's much more small scale. So a lot of them are carrying their mortgage and others. There is a new program that they have set up that is a mediation program that is now required in order for us to proceed with, if we did need to proceed with evictions. But it opens that line of communication between us and tenants, and it allows us to be able to have a neutral party there to be able to educate us on what the options are and these new programs that are set up, and help the tenant on figuring out how to fill out the right information. There's things that we're able to do for our tenants where we fill out the paperwork ahead of time that they'll need for a landlord, that the only thing the tenant has to do is just provide their part to make it a lot easier, where this is an incredibly stressful time. It causes a lot of anxiety in people where they almost just shut down. And these are people who want help and they want things to get better. And these programs have really made a difference in that. There are definitely some transitions that are going to be needed, and some different types of programs that are going to need to get set up in order for the long-term stability of this. Yeah. But the fact that the state and counties and cities and private programs all stepped up immediately with everything going on does help. We're in a much better situation than we would have been had that not happened.
Yeah. So we've got 1 minute left with my time with the two of you today. Either one of you can answer this. If somebody's listening right now and they're thinking about the opportunity to invest in an investment property, what would be your biggest advice?
Absolutely. I tell my kids, I was like, as soon as you can, buy into real estate, move into your first home if that's all you can do, live there for a few years. And then instead of selling that home, maybe lease that property out, move into another one, and then grow that. And it's ultimately, real estate is one of the best investments you could ever have.
Absolutely. Well advised. It is the safest investment that you can make. I mean, really the only way you lose in money in real estate is you're forced to sell in a bad market and you're not reinvesting in another property at that time. So yeah. Beautiful investment to have for sure. Well, thank you to both of you for joining the show. It was a pleasure to have a conversation with you about property management.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, why over 90% of businesses do not sell. We have Monica Sanchez of Transworld Business Advisors right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Are you a real estate investor looking to optimize and protect your investment? As the experts in property management, you can trust Real Property Management today to protect your investment. Whether this is your first property or you are a seasoned investor, they will work with you to optimize your property and make you money. Miranda McClure and her team of experts have seen it all and will always have a solution ready. They back this with their RPM Today guarantee. To learn more about their services, call them at 253-820-5007 or online at rpmtoday.com.
Alternative Talk 1150. We're on your radio at 1150 AM. We're on your HD radio at 98.9 Channel 3.
So many ways to listen.
We're on the web at 1150kknw.com. Streaming live audio and video as well as MP3 archives of many of our shows.
So many ways to listen.
And now, we're on your smartphone or tablet. Download our free app in the Apple App Store or Google Play and take Alternative Talk 1150 anywhere you go.
So many ways to listen.
Are you a business owner and have been thinking of selling but not sure how to get started? Monica Sanchez with Transworld Business Advisors can help you earn up to 20% more than selling on your own and provides a smooth transition from start to finish. Monica Sanchez and her local team of experts allow you to focus on your business and maintain confidentiality through the process. For more information about Transworld Business Advisors and Monica Sanchez, call them today at 509-383-3031 to schedule a free business consultation to discuss your goals.
Going against the grain has never been this much fun. Alternative Talk 1150.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, June 26th show. You can also catch us on our podcast, Facebook premiere show, or on our show YouTube channel. I am your host, Tina Mitchell, and flying solo today as Keelan's taking the day off. We bring into studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything regarding your money. We are here to help you in today's economy. And now in studio, we have Monica Sanchez of Transworld Business Advisors. Why over 90% of businesses do not sell, right here on 1150 AM at KKNW. Monica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tina. I truly appreciate it and an honor to be here.
Likewise, very excited to have you. So Monica is a business advisor with Transworld of Central Washington. She believes in being of service to others and helping them in a meaningful way by empowering individuals through education, listening to the needs of her sellers, and understands the buyers to provide a smooth, confident, and confidential rewarding process for all parties. Monica has lived in the Northwest for over 40 years. Her greatest accomplishment was completing her bachelor degree with honors in 2018 while building a business and raising her family. Monica understands the value of hard work to achieve a goal. Being part of her community through the Yakima Veterans Coalition and the Yakima Valley College Program Advisory Committee allows her to reach out and uplift others to achieve their goals. So again, really excited to have a conversation with you and all about your business and what's happening. So let's start out with what was your why behind becoming a business advisor?
Thank you. So both of my parents, they owned their own business back in the 80s. And, when they were ready to sell and take that next step of retirement, there was not a business advisor in our area. Now, Yakima is a small town, and it was very well known on the East Coast, but not on the West Coast. So eventually what they had to do was close their doors, and they ended up losing financially. They had to sell and just mainly give away the inventory that they had that was remaining. And through that experience that I had and watched my parents struggle at the end was really a big motivating factor for me to become a business advisor, especially for my valley. And I'm honored to help bring people, buyers and sellers together for a smooth transition.
Yeah, I love hearing the story of our why and our journey and what's brought us to where we were at. Growing up, I played my violin at Pike Place Market to help my parents keep a roof over our head. And as I was doing that through the humiliation of it, I was making a commitment and determination that I was going to be a homeowner. And I bought my first home when I was 20 years old. So it's nice that whether, I always say we're either driven by pain or we're driven by purpose. But if you can have the mixture of that pain drawing you to your purpose, that's a great combination for sure. So Monica, why does a business owner need an advisor?
Well, it's important to have a business advisor. Oftentimes they don't know where to start. And so that takes time away from their business and talking to potential buyers that may never may never put in an offer. So this decreases from their sales. And oftentimes it's not kept confidential from the employees, vendors, and the clients. This is where a business advisor can help because they can keep the process confidential, handle the day-to-day conversations, and qualify the potential buyers in order to allow the business owners to focus on increasing their sales through this transaction.
Yeah, I am definitely a believer that you hire out everything with the experts to take care of it because we really are an expert in our area. There's a lot of other things that go into successful financial outcome and hiring somebody that can navigate through that process for you. So why is it important to keep a sale confidential?
Well, this is really important.
What could be the risk if it wasn't kept confidential?
True. And what it is, people have this fear, right? If they see that there's going to be an impact of maybe their favorite place that's going to be changing hands, or the employees know, they start to get nervous, and then they start to jump ship. And this will impact the business and the owners in a negative way. And then it makes the buyers fearful of, if that's happening now, what's going to happen when I take over?
Yeah, imagine, I mean, if you work at a company, just think about it. If you're hearing that the owners are going to sell, I mean, definitely you're starting to see what your options are, because that would get nervous. So the confidentiality, I can see, is critically important, and a lot of different reasons why. So Monica, how do you increase your buyer pool?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there is, so think about it this way. There's businesses, they work in the business versus working on the business, and this can limit a lot of the skills that a buyer would need in order to take over that business. So you want to place yourself in that owner's role of working on the business, dealing with the management of the people, directing the vision and the strategy, overseeing the finance performance. This makes it really where the business is more of a generic business skill set and functions that can be taken over and can be transferred across other industries. And that widens the pool for buyers.
Yes. So what about the reason why you build a middle management?
Yeah, well, and that's again, right? So you don't want to be, you're the face of the business initially, but you'll want to grow that out to where your employees are taking over. That way, it's not where a buyer's coming in and they're fearful that the success of the business is related to the owner and their day-to-day involvement. This is really a huge risk in sales, and one of the reasons why companies either they don't sell on their own or they have to sell at a reduced price. So the solution would be, implement your employees in those relations and delegate them towards that middle management.
Yeah. So Monica, when should someone reach out and talk with a business advisor?
That's a good question. Think about it this way. If you don't have a succession plan in place for illness, retirement, now is a good time to reach out, right? It's a free consultation just to discuss what their options are. And owners want to look at least 3 to 5 years out when they're putting their plan together. It does take an average of 6 to 9 months to sell a business. So keeping that factor in mind, it's not hot like the
17 days, not like 17 days,
something like that. So that's definitely something to know. And then there's several steps in place as well that they have to do before you could actually list the business.
Yeah, so you're really taking action and having that strategy session to find out and put that plan together. It's kind of like a mortgage. Somebody says, well, when do I come talk to you about a mortgage? Right now, if you're asking, if you think you want to be a homeowner at all, in the future, the first step is to talk about financing on kind of the same thing in your industry, have that strategy. And you may not be thinking of even selling your business, but having that conversation of what that could like, it could help you actually put a plan together in the future of what that opportunity might be. So Monica, what do buyers look for?
Well, there's a variety of buyers that you want to keep in mind. One is the buyer who's already in that same industry and they want to acquire their competition, right? So that's one. Two is the buyer who they want to be in business for themselves. They don't want to work for somebody else, but yet they don't want to start from scratch either, because that's a long haul and you don't know if that's going to be successful or not. And the last one is absentee owners. Now, this is a big one that they tend to have a portfolio of other businesses, and then they grow through acquisitions. But either way, these buyers, they want a business it's turnkey, doing well financially, has a good reputation, and easy to transition into.
So why not use a realtor?
Well, realtors and business advisors, we are very different. For example, a realtor, they have the luxury of being able to put a home or commercial building out there in the market for anybody to search. But as for a business broker, the marketing technique has to be different, right? Because we talk about the key important, which is confidentiality. So marketing a business in the same way that you would market a house could be financially disastrous for that business and their bottom line.
Yeah. So Monica, I would assume that a business owner, they can sell their business even though they don't own the building, correct?
Yes, and that's where some business owners are not privy to, or they don't understand that. They think if I don't own the building, then my business isn't worth anything. But they've built up this year of clientele. So yeah, we actually have over half of our transactions involve just selling the business and not the building. We have to keep in mind that the landlord is the key factor in this process, because they could kill a deal if they don't want to renew a lease to somebody who's never been in that industry, so we really help with that process.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about, restaurants and retail stores and things like that, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what differentiates one business advisor from another, Monica?
Well, some business advisors, they will charge an upfront fee that may not be refundable. So therefore, the seller's at risk already putting some money up front. Plus, a lot of brokers, they will only work with businesses that are $500,000 and up. So what we do differently is we don't charge any upfront fees. We only get paid when we sell the business. So there's no risk to them. And then also we like to work with small to medium-sized businesses and providing those owners consultation through coaching standpoint, which is often overlooked. And then we also help to provide them guidance to maximize their profits.
Yeah, that is so great. Well, Monica, it was a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise with our listeners.
Thank you for having me.
And this is your host, Tina Mitchell, local mortgage expert, signing off for the day. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your week. We'll be here to talk more money. Keelan will be here with me next weekend, right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, NMLS 134871. The views expressed by the speakers on the preceding program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, nor are they necessarily